frame of global attention. So I expect as of May this year, next month, we'll get some real attention on these discoveries. I plan to visit the United States in July, August, to do my first visit to the States and do a number of talks. I hope to, make contact with people and organizations that will help me do this tour.
Will you be in the L.A. area?
I would love to. I must come to L.A. Of course, okay. I must come to L.A.
Yeah, time it. I'll be there then. So let's get together.
Well, what I'd like to do while we've got this platform is to say for those people that are in the media or in the events sort of area who feel they can get involved with my trip to the States, to take this message to the American people. Please email me and tell me, look, we can help you in this town or this city or this state. And that'll certainly help me a great deal. Remember, I'm a self-published author. I don't have a huge publisher behind me to set this up and organize this for me. So,
well, maybe we got to change that for you too, Michael.
So
we in the right hands.
We deal well, George. I appreciate it, and really, if it wasn't for you and the fact that you took a chance on interviewing me when I first released Slave Species of God, we wouldn't be here today, and I probably would not have made the discoveries. It's really people like you that have played a very important role in the discoveries that Johan Heine and I have made, because it's kept the flame going. Otherwise it would have died a long time ago. Well,
it's an incredible flame. It's a flame that needs to stay lit, and you've done a great job doing that, Michael. And it's just, to me, there's nothing more fascinating and exciting than our history, something where we can find out once and for all who are we, why we're here. And let me tell you why I think your work and Sitchin's work happens to be so exciting. Because even though I'm a staunch believer that we were genetically altered, that the Annunaki came here, it doesn't negate the fact that there is a divine creator who played a part in their existence.
Absolutely. And it is important for me to state this because what I find interesting, I'm getting more and more Christian groups and religious groups that are part of established religion coming to my talks and my presentations, because I never ever denounce the existence of a divine creator or a divine being.
You can't.
In fact, no, you can't do that, exactly. In fact, I just separate and distinguish between God with a big G and then these gods with a small g that came to planet Earth and created a new being and used them for their purposes, and then things all went very, very wrong and belly up. And it's very interesting when you start looking at the knowledge of these people here in Southern Africa and the technology they used for generating energy, vibrational frequency, their knowledge of vibrational frequency, energy, for levitating things, for crushing the stone, for separating the gold and the platinum and all the other metals that they were mining, including iron, separating them and smelting them and then using them for whatever they were using them. They had knowledge of vibrational energy, vibrational frequency. Now, we mentioned before the break that it was only recently, 100-odd years ago, that people like John Keely and Nikola Tesla and Royal Rife rediscovered the power of this vibrational frequency, specifically the frequency of sound, and they started applying that in their own fields of science. But that information was very swiftly removed from society because, the Illuminati do not want us to have that knowledge because that frees us from the prison, doesn't it?
There was a little frail guy, 120 pounds. His name was Edward Leeds Scullin, and he came from Eastern Europe, came to the United States, settled in Florida. He constructed by himself a stone block, small little town, basically. It was really, it was like you would consider it a house. And he did it all by himself, moving these stones that were huge. And he said he knew the secrets of the pyramids. I think it had to do with magnetics and resonance and everything else.
Exactly. And what I find interesting as well, when I've taken some open-minded geologists that are not working in the mainframe and have to abide by the Geological Society's rules, that can allow themselves to think a bit freely. When I take them to the ruins and they see some of the shapes of the stones, they just freak out. they say this is not possible. These stones do not make any sense. It looks like somebody had molded it into that shape and then, without heating it up, and then let it to set or dry. Because some of these stones in the ruins are, first of all, they don't belong there, and they're a stone that does not belong in that area. And then, secondly, they're very rounded. And then in their rounded shape, they develop these very strange cracks along the surface, which don't make any sense in geological terms. And it's as if somebody knew the secret to manipulate the energy flow through that rock, the vibrational frequency, so that they can soften it like plasticine or molding clay, and then molded it into a circular or round, a spherical shape, and then let it dry. And then because they disturbed the molecular structure of that particular rock, it then shows these interesting cracking patterns on the outside surface. But these are just some of the anomalies that we're discovering. What I want to bring to your attention as well before we go to the break at the top of the hour is the energy devices that these guys were building, the structures and the shapes of these ruins that once again we rediscovered in the 1930s and 1940s. On the Makamati website, there's also a picture of one of the stone structures which was in the 1940s used by the Japanese to design and create what they call the death ray. I believe they would have borrowed that from Nikola Tesla, and they were designing the weapon with which they were going to smite the Allied armies, right?
They wanted to knock planes out of the sky, you name it.
Exactly. And they did that with this device called the death ray. And when you go and look at the schematics and the drawings of the death ray, it was basically a small dish, like a satellite dish, maybe a meter or two in diameter. And at its heart is what they call a klystron or a magnetron. And the magnetron and the klystron is probably not more than 6 inches in diameter, and it was that device and the shape of that device that caused the generation of the very high, powerful vibrational frequency with which they then used that became the death ray. Now,
if you use that today, I bet you could cause an earthquake.
Well, now you really put your finger right into the middle of this, because now we're getting a direct link not only to the ancient civilizations here, but also to the sinking of Atlantis. Okay, now, before the previous break, you picked up immediately that these stone circular structures with all these channels and roads that link them together without any doors or entrances, and sometimes multiple concentric circles, linked to these channels, or these so-called roads, each one is linked, okay? Mm-hmm. These were energy devices. There's no question about that. There is no other plausible scientific explanation for it. They certainly were not roads to drive cattle on, which is what our historians would like us to believe. And they weren't dwellings because they had no entrances, okay? So they must have been something else, and that something else were energy devices to drive this huge population of probably 50 to 100 million people that lived here over a 270,000-year period mining gold. They needed energy from somewhere for all this activity. And many of these clustered areas are very specifically energy devices. Now, when you look at the shape of a klystron or a magnetron in the Japanese death ray, it is identical, and I mean identical, to the stone ruins that we have down here, many of the stone ruins, except that the stone ruins are 20 meters in diameter, while the klystron and the magnetron in the death ray was 6 inches in diameter. So you can imagine the immense power that can be generated.
Huge. Stay with us. We're going to take phone calls next hour, Michael, with you on Coast to Coast AM.